Swing and a drive, left field, get out, oh, get out of here, and
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Flight Deck podcast. If it's not the number one Blue Jays podcast in the world, it's the number one Blue Jays podcast in your hearts. A little different for the first time in a while. There's only one of us, and it's me, Connor. We couldn't make the schedules all work this week, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging on an episode of the Flight Deck because some Blue Jays stuff has happened, and it's a lot of big Blue Jays stuff, but we'll just get into the series that happened at first. We'll start with the Cubs, and then we'll go into the Reds, and then how that moves on with the rest of our week. So took 1 out of 3 from the Cubs. Not great. Game 1, it was a lot of fucking home runs given up by Yariel Rodriguez, who wasn't not his game. It wasn't a great game from Yariel. The Jays did end up coming back in the 9th inning thanks to a weird ass balk and a George Springer 2-run triple, but they did end up losing that game. So, yay! What are the odds of that? Game 2 in that series, Justin Steele versus Chris Bassitt, is one of the weirdest games I think I've watched in a very long time. Ian Happ hits a home run, and then it goes from sunny in the next half inning. It goes from sunny as all hell to torrential downpour, and then they have a super long delay, which I know we all love those delays because this is why every team needs a dome. Toronto never gets those. We love those. But then after the delay, they played about an inning, and then they went into another delay. It was about a 15-minute break in between both delays, which is ridiculous. But then, the Jays ended up losing that game 3-2. The only upside is that Barger had a bomb. And this was also the game that Vladdy came up with 2 men on, and George Springer they called for George Springer in a double steal, and George Springer got swiped at third. First time he's gotten caught stealing this year. Not the smartest idea when you have one of the hottest hitters, if not the hottest hitter on the planet, aside from Aaron Judge, up at the plate with a guy in scoring position. But that's just me. What do I know? And in the last game, a whole lot of not much went on. We gotta shout out Joey Loperfido, first bomb with the Blue Jays, and it would be the winning bomb because the only thing that was needed was a Bowden Francis masterclass. Shout out to Bowden Francis. He went 7 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, no walks, 7 Ks. It's back-to-back 7-inning starts for Bowden Francis, and he did end up winning the MLB, the AL Player of the Week. So, congratulations to Bowden Francis, who has really started to turn it on in the back half of the season since getting pushed back into the starter role, which I'm happy for him because, as we all remember, he was the 5th starter going into the season before we had Yariel and all the injuries that would end up happening. He did not produce well in that 5th starter role. He got moved back to the bullpen, and he got sent down to stretch out and get more pitches under his belt. And since he's come back up, he has been very, very good. So I just want to shout him out for that. And this team is more fun to watch. It's weird. It's more fun and less fun at the same time, if that makes sense, because they're definitely hitting the ball harder. Like, they're a more fun team to watch on offense. And a lot of that we could see in the Cincinnati Reds series, which was the return of everybody's favorite backup middle infielder, Santiago Espinal. Love you, Santi. And as we all do every time a player that wasn't legendary returns to the team, we give them a standing ovation. I'm looking at you, Kevin Pillar. I'm looking at you, Santiago Espinal. Like, I love Santi, but standing ovation? Really? We giving him a standing ovation? I guess that's just me. But we do have a couple of things to talk about in this series. One was just, oh boy, the bullpen. The bullpen did it again. Vladdy hit another home run, and then it was just a lot of just everything. That game was good until it wasn't. Kevin Kepping-Ogman was good until he wasn't. Brian Burr gave up back-to-back doubles. and gave up 3 runs, and that was basically the ball game. It ended up finishing 6-3. Ernie Clement did hit a home run in the ninth to give the Jays some hope, but that was squandered as always. But yeah, bullpen is bullpenning because we love our bullpen right now in the state that it's in. Uh, Game two, a very big positive for the Blue Jays. It was Barrios versus Carson Spires, and Barrios went another strong 7 innings, only gave up 2 runs, so that's good for him. The Blue Jays proceeded to hit 5 home runs in this game, if I'm reading this correctly. Yeah, they hit five. Wait, I'm reading my own notes here, and I can't even tell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 home runs. I wasn't crazy. Okay. But it did start. The game did start with a Will Wagner single, who was batting in the cleanup spot. Wasn't told he was batting in the cleanup spot, but still did the job nonetheless. We did get 2 home runs from George Springer, and then we got a home run from Alejandro Kirk and Spencer Horwitz going back to back. And then we also had Leo Jimenez, who's slowly becoming my favorite Blue Jay. Good job, Leo. Hit another bomb to dead center. Yeah, that was a good game there. Pop and Nance came in and gave up 1 run combined. So that's all we need. It ended up being a 10-3 victory for the Blue Jays in that one. So shout out to them for that. And the game that happened as of this recording yesterday. Oh boy. Started phenomenally. George Springer hit his 60th career leadoff home run to start the game. He is now 21 behind Ricky Henderson. Is he going to get it? Probably not, because Ricky played for almost what feels like 40 years. Jokingly serious, not serious, but serious. And then Spencer Horwitz, 3 batters later, went deep to give the Jays a 3-0 lead. Then Ernie Clement hit a 3-run bomb, made it 6-0, and the Jays proceeded to score 1 run after that and gave up 11 of them things. So another not good start for Yariel. Eric Swanson came in, gave up 3 runs. A lot of things are going to have to change in this offseason. And yeah, so you lose 2 out of 3 to Cincinnati. You do start a 4-game series with the Angels today as of this recording. And it was announced that they're pushing back the regular starters to set up for the doubleheader in Boston, which is on Monday. So it was announced like as of 30 minutes ago of my recording that Ryan Burr would get the start for the Jays tonight against the Angels, which he gets the start in air quotes, but Ryan Yarbrough will probably take majority of the bulk role. Ryan Burr will maybe go 1 or 2 innings. Yarbrough will get 4 or 5. So you could think of it as a Ryan Yarbrough start for the Blue Jays. And hopefully that goes well. They did last week destroy the Angels in Anaheim. So let's hope that carried over into Toronto and for a 4-game set with the Angels. That's crazy. But man, there is a lot of Jays news that happened very quickly and very abruptly. So as we all know and probably have heard, Joey Votto has retired from baseball as of last night. He came out in a 9-second Instagram video in the Buffalo in the Salem Field parking lot in Buffalo, saying, "That's it. I'm done. I'm retired from baseball." Now, that is insanely. You could look at this in multiple fronts. Let's just start with the basis. Joey Votto did retire in the most Joey Votto way in the parking lot, just being like, "I'm done. Peace. I'm done. Baseball is I'm good. I live my baseball life. It's fine." But then there are reports or rumblings that Ross Atkins drove out to Buffalo and told Joey Votto, "I don't know how plausible a call up will be in September." Granted, Joey did have a not great OPS in AAA Buffalo, so yeah, it didn't look great on that end for him playing wise. He did also put out a statement that did say that he was sad that he couldn't make it to Toronto to play in front of the fans, which it's very unfortunate. I know I was the guy on last week's podcast that was like, I don't care if Joey Votto plays with the Jays. I couldn't care, but I just didn't expect it to end this way. I think if like the story of Joey Votto playing for the Jays, I didn't really care much about. the whole year. Like it after a while, it did just become like, okay, this is just if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't for me. But I know a lot of people were excited to see him play with the Blue Jays, even if it was a couple of games, and it was interesting timing. He did it obviously because the Reds were in town, and Shadi Vidi did report that Joey Votto drove to the Rogers Center from Buffalo so he could visit some of the Reds players and his former teammates before they left the building. He said he desperately wanted to participate in games here, but wasn't up to the level he needed to be at. Joey Votto did also state, "quote I'm really saddened that I wasn't able to make it happen, that I wasn't able to perform and arrive at the Rogers Center in Blue Jays uniform, representing the city that I grew up in, the country that I grew up in, and my people. I'm saddened by that, but this isn't my organization. So how can I show up and make it my day, my moment? Here's an at bat, here's a game, here's a stretch of time. To me, it's disrespectful to the game. I also think it's disrespectful to the paying fans that want to see a high end performance, and I would have given them an awful performance." Man, he one thing you can always say about Joey Votto, he is honest. He's very honest with like himself, and like he realizes the scope and the scale of the situation. But yeah, just shout out to Joey Votto, 17-year career, and a 17-year career that is he a Hall of Famer? I think so. He finished with a 17 seasons, like I said, a career 64.5 B WAR. This is B WAR. I'm going all this off Baseball Reference just before people come at me with the incorrects and all that. In 7,252 at bats, he had 2,135 hits, 356 home runs. He had 300, 294 batting average, a 409 on base for his career, a 511 slugging for a 920 OPS, 144 OPS plus, and 1,144 RBIs. He finished as a one-time MVP, a six-time goal All-Star, and a one-time Gold Glove. Now, I think he could very much be a Hall of Famer. Given the numbers, given the longevity, the awards aren't necessarily there as far as your typical quote-unquote Hall of Famers. But if Harold Baines can make it, no disrespect to Harold Baines, Harold Baines is just the guy that gets shots fired at him now, so I'm gonna take him while I can. If Joey Votto is a Hall of Famer to me, and if he's not a Hall of Famer, he's in the Hall of what some people like myself would say, very, very good. He's in the Hall of very, very good at the minimum. But yeah, congratulations to Joey on his more than successful major league career. And I hope that he sticks somewhere in the game of baseball because the game is better with Joey Votto in it. Some of Joey Votto's best moments, his funniest moments include just you could just go off a list with the Blue Jays. He showed up the entire offseason of him being like in a car wash, someone sign me, please. And then he signs to Toronto. He's in Tampa in the crowd for the first game of the season, which is funny as shit and kind of cool. There's also the moments on Intentional Talk where he dressed up as like a Canadian Mountie, which was funny. It was in 2021 where he went off in the month of, I want to say it was August or September, if I'm correct. But yeah, he's a legendary person with a more than stellar career is Joey Votto. And it's gonna be weird to not have Joey Votto in the game of baseball. So please stay in the game of baseball for us, Joey. We will more than appreciate it. And now on to the, I want to say, less than fun news in the Blue Jays land. So it was in an article in USA Today by everyone's favorite writer, Bob Nightingale. He did have an outline. He did have a quote, a pretty significant quote in there about the Jays and their future in 2025 specifically. And he said the Blue Jays are expected to entertain offers this winter for shortstop Bo Bichette, who has no plans in staying in Toronto once he's a free agent after the 2025 season. Now, how much of a terrible person do I want to sound like? Or not terrible, but how much of a bad person do I want to sound like? Hey, Bo Bichette, bye bye. Like I was a big Bo guy going into like throughout his career and going into this season even, but man, he has not come off in a great light. In He doesn't speak much in the media, and when he does, it paints him in the worst possible light because he had to quote before the trade deadline of, "Oh, if I get traded, it's a business. I wouldn't be shocked." And then there was the another article by Bob Nightingale that came out that was saying that like people in Bobichet's camps have said that he would welcome a trade. Like, man, you Bo, if you're not the one saying this stuff, get some better people around you because you look like an ass saying half of the stuff that you do. If that's the case, like because with your play, it's one thing if you're batting like 2023, 2022, 2021 Bo Bichette. You were arguably one of the worst offensive short, like arguably the worst offensive shortstop in baseball. It's a little dramatic, but you get the case. But he can't go on. He can't say this stuff, and he clearly doesn't want to be a part of this future. Like every possible opportunity that when Vlad gets asked about it, he's like, "No, I want to be in Toronto. I want to stay in Toronto. Toronto is my home." Kind of like he goes out of his way to say that he wants to stay and be here his entire career as a Toronto Blue Jay. And it's the fact that Bo Bichette just like he says nothing, and then when he does say something, it's very, I guess, like it's very very lax and not in a like not in a good way. That's the biggest issue. It's lax and it's not in a good way for Bo Bichette. And he very much needs to understand that he lost a lot of I'd say he lost a lot of good faith with Blue Jays fans this season. And faith is something that is in short supply, uh, especially this season when it comes to how bad things have gone. So, Bo, if you're here next year, we'll see how you do. But it's contract year. It's a contract year, guys. So we can't really take anything that he does at face value because it's contract year. So he could become Luis Ariz and be like, nah, it's contract year. So you never know. Um, but yeah, Bo Bichette could be on the way out of Toronto sooner rather than later. Uh, that's not a great, not a great not a great thing. And finally, the arguably the biggest piece of Blue Jays news that came out within the week was Chris Bassitt on the Chris Rose rotation. Yeah, that and he basically Chris Rose basically asked him what went wrong with the Blue Jays. Uh, it's in a roundabout way. He did mention that there are some that he says we think we put 700 million into the Shohei Ohtani basket and didn't get him, and they had no pivot, which is true because as we all remember, everything was Ohtani, 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 Ohtani. Then we get the what was the happiest day turned into like the saddest day, the infamous plane day, where we think Shohei Ohtani is coming to Toronto on a plane. Turns out it's just Herjavec, Robert Herjavec, and we were lied to. And then the next day, Shohei Ohtani signs with the LA Dodgers for that 700 million. So, but man, I'm sad again. I'm sad again. I just got sad again with the Shohei Ohtani news. Great. It's been damn near 8 months since that happened. 9 months even. He did. Chris Bassitt did also say in that there are some changes that are out of the Blue Jays' control, which again doesn't look great. That's not great, but thanks to Arden's Welling, he did kind of not backtrack. He didn't backtrack on the statements that he made, which I'm glad that he didn't because the Jays needed to hear some hard hitting and honest truth about themselves in the whole grand scheme of things. Um, and he said Bassitt said his reference to the Blue Jays not having a pivot after an unsuccessful pursuit of Shohei Ohtani was referring to a lack of impactful alternates on the free agent market, which is very true. The entire offseason, we did talk, Brant, and Nate did talk about the fact that other than Shohei Ohtani, what was the biggest impact bat you could grab? Once, and now people will say Juan Soto. That's a trade, which is very different because, but looking at the bats, it was bring back Matt Chapman. It was bring in Cody Bellinger. It was Jorge Soler. It was Jock Peterson. It was Michael. It was those type of players. It was a Jamer Candelario. It was a Mitch Garver. It was a Tim Anderson. Like it's and all of those guys. They're not Shohei Ohtani. Now, what the Jays did do is another thing entirely with Justin Turner and Isaiah Kiner Falefa, who IKF did was very good in his time with the Jays. Justin Turner started hot, middle was ended hot. So on that end, Kevin Kiermaier with the bat, but great glove as always. But yeah, he is correct. After Shohei Ohtani, there wasn't any bats to go get that would change the complexion of a lineup, quite like Shohei Ohtani did. And the and he's not wrong. And he also stated that his comments weren't referring to a lack of ambition in Toronto's front office, but rather to show the realities of a shallow free agent class. Which, if we're being honest, it's still this free agent class isn't looking much better, guys. Like the biggest bat is Juan Soto. Clearly, it's it's uh it's Juan Soto is a machine when it comes to hitting, but by all accounts, he will remain a Yankee. He will remain a Yankee unless the Mets go gangbusters and bid 800 million for him, which is not great. Yay. But other than that, it's Alex Bregman. It's if Matt Chapman or Cody Bellinger opt out, it's a lot of the guys from last year with an Alex Bregman thrown in and a Juan Soto. So what does this look like this year for the Jays? Do they bring in an Alex Bregman? Do they get Juan Soto, which I would be over the moon if they get Juan Soto. But we got to look at it realistically. I don't think the Jays are going to get Juan Soto. And the biggest thing that came out of that was Chris Bassitt did say that there was some unfixable problems. And the unfixable problems he was referring to was in reference to circumstances out of the Blue Jays' control rather than structural issues within the organization. He did flat out say, I'm going to be 36 next year. You can't change me to 26. You can't change age. You can't change things like that. I think too many people will see the Chris Rose rotation interview and be like, oh shit, he's talking about a massive problem. Things are going really, really bad and they can't solve it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's variables in the game that you literally cannot change, which he is not wrong. Let's just look at let's just count on your hands how many things went wrong for the Jays this year. Eric Swanson started due to tragedy. He started the season very slow and couldn't build up. Jordan Romano also started the season injured. That's 2. Bo Bichette had the worst season of his career. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. started terribly. George Springer started terribly. The only Justin Turner was meh. With your signing, Kevin Kiermaier was terrible. Yeah, just keep going. Danny Jansen started the year hurt. Alek Manoah with Tommy John. Chris Bassitt started the year poorly. Ariel Rodriguez wasn't up, and then when he was to start, it was okay. I lost track. It's a lot of things that were just boo, like boo boo, and Kevin Gosman started the year slow because he was injured in the like. I could keep going. Jimmy Garcia was like one of the saving, like he was one of the positives at the beginning of the year. And I'm gonna say, here's my obligatory mention of him. Kevin Biggio was one of your better hitters for the first month of the season, which yikes. Like I realize he's my guy, but that's not great. So if if the Jays can realize and fix their issues in the offseason, it's going to take a massive amount of change in the offseason because the bullpen, not good at all. Chad Green and Genesis Cabrera are two people. That's two people, and you need 7, 8 people in a bullpen. Where do your Burrs, your Pops, your Littles, your Tommy Nances fit into the world? Like they better make a bunch of signings. Like, that's something I do. Okay, sorry, folks. That's something I do need to save because that is an interesting thing to look at when we get to around the league. But yeah. Oh, Bo Bichette also having his worst year and multiple injuries. Sorry, I didn't mention those. Um, man, what can I say about the Blue Jays? Uh, I'll try to find the way to end this on a positive note. Yeah, the Blue Jays, they are not going to be as bad as they are this year. How about that? And honestly, if they keep playing the way they are, they're going to get a top 5 draft pick. So if they can somehow Cleveland Guardians this and be a really good team next year with a top 5 draft pick and get a really good player, that'd be great. If you figure out what you have in Leo Jimenez and guys like Addison Barger and Joey Lopefito, and I think you're seeing what you have in those guys for a good bit. Leo Jimenez is a guy that he plays a smooth shortstop. He's a guy that he hits the ball hard. Ever since he's got up here, he's hit it hard. He's had a lot of doubles. He's starting to get the ball over the fence. They did mention on the broadcast yesterday that of his 3 home runs, his shortest was a 397, and then there's a 4. I think there's a 410 and a 424. So he hits the ball. He's got sneaky pop, is what Leo Jimenez has gotten so far in his career. Joey Lopefito, if he can. He's had a terrible over streak. He started to kind of pick it up a bit the last week or so. Addison Barger continues to hit the ball very hard. If he plays a decent third base now, he's kind of calmed down. I do want to see what we have in a guy like Jonathan Clase in September. Hopefully he gets the call, or even an Alan Roden. I want to see what those guys have because we know with Clase has the speed. He has the on base ability. He does have a little bit of pop, nothing crazy. I just really want to see it because he's the one other guy that was him and Jake Bloss. I do kind of want to see what they are, even just a little bit, because we know both of those guys have had a taste of the major leagues, but it was early in the season. Bloss was by necessity because the Astros bullpen rotation was destroyed. Clase earned his call up and continues to play really well down in Buffalo. Bloss has gone 6 2/3 in his 2 starts, but I think that's more so to do with the fact that they just don't want to. They want to see less about how far he can go into a game because they know he can. He's done it. He's done it before in the minors. They just want to see how's the command. How can he locate his fastball correctly? What's the off speed look like off of that fastball? And yeah, I think Jake Bloss. A lot of people expected Jake Bloss to be up potentially for the doubleheader, and he might be even up for the doubleheader as the 27th man. So we'll see there on Monday. But yeah, the guys that are currently showing what they have, like Ernie Clement has kind of almost played his way onto next year's team. Spencer Horwitz has just suddenly discovered the power and he's bat flipping. He's got 8 home runs on the year now. And he's making it work for him. Like again, if the Jays can figure out what they have with everything, like I if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So, but fingers crossed that the Blue Jays figure something out. And yeah, that is everything for our Blue Jays this week. And we move to a mini Sox watch because I'm not watching as much White Sox as I did clearly, but Grady Sizemore has got the White Sox playing a bit better, not winning as crazy amount of games, but they're playing a bit better. They're still very much in last place in the league. So if the bet still happens, it happens. But yeah, the biggest piece of news that did come out that I did want to talk about is we are in the middle of 2024, but the WBC for 2026 already has their pools format and schedule reveal. So the WBC will run from March 5th to the 17th in 2026 and will be hosted in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Houston, Texas, Tokyo, Japan, and Miami. So the top two countries from each pool will progress to the quarterfinal rounds, which are scheduled to take place in Houston's Minute Maid Park and Miami's Lone Depot. The semifinals and final will also be held in Miami. So, and they also revealed the pools. The pools look a lot more balanced because if you remember last WBC, they had Puerto Rico, Venezuela, and the Dominican Republic all in the same pool, which is talk about a pool of death. So we can say Pool A is Puerto Rico, Cuba, Canada, Panama, and a qualifier. Which so far it's looking like the top two in that one are Cuba and Puerto Rico. Just going, but Canada does have a shot because we're getting better in the WBC and all that world. Pool B, United States, Mexico. Pool A will take place in San Juan. Pool B will take place in Houston, Texas, and it is the U.S., Mexico, Italy, Great Britain, and another qualifier team. Yeah, so far that's looking kind of like Italy, USA, Mexico, which USA could have a crazy good team in 2026, as they always do. It's the USA. Mexico will trying to come off another strong performance after the last WBC, with carried by guys like Joey Meneses, Patrick Sandoval, Jaron Duran. Yikes. Pool C, which will take place in Tokyo, Japan, is Japan, Australia, Korea, Czechia, and a qualifier team as well. Obviously, Japan and Korea look to be the strong favorites there. Australia did put up a decent performance in the last WBC, so credit for them. And finally, Pool D, which will take place in Miami, Florida, is Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, the Netherlands, Israel, and a qualifier. Now, we all can assume that we think Venezuela and the Dominican Republic will make it through. Netherlands did put up a good showing in the last WBC in the pool with Cuba and Chinese Taipei, I believe. But yeah, the WBC is always a fun time in baseball because you get to see people team up that you don't normally get to see. Like obviously, in moments like the Shohei Ohtani versus Mike Trout at bat for the championship of the WBC, which hoping we get another moment like that potentially. Get a Roki Sasaki and a Bobby Witt Jr. on like a young gun kind of end, because you will see the USA will have guys that weren't on the team last time. I believe Gunnar Henderson not on the team last time. He'll be there for sure. Bobby Witt was on the team, didn't get much playing time. He'll be one of the stars of that team now. We may see a Bryce Harper. We may see. Well, and another team probably going to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because if we remember, he was supposed to be the first baseman for the Dominican Republic team in the WBC, but he pulled out because of a wrist injury that happened in spring training. So I know Vladdy will probably want to do that for absolute certainty. So yeah, the WBC is always fun. You end up rooting for things that you never thought you would. And as long as Great Britain doesn't have those god awful jerseys, we will be more than fine. So now we go to other than WBC, we go to our typical injury segment, which both times that I've done a solo podcast, we have some of the weirdest injury news. Because last year I did a solo podcast. It was Jared Kelnick breaking his hand by, I believe it was punching a wall. Yeah, he went to the Devin Williams School of being mad or celebrating and punching something. But this one, Tyler Glasnow will go on the IL with tendonitis in his elbow. So that's not great for Tyler Glasnow. The Dodgers really need him because if we're looking at their rotation and guys that they are missing, let's just River Ryan, who was really good for them, is now out for the season. Bobby Miller has been up and down this year. He's struggled pretty big. Um, you can't really rely on Clayton Kershaw as much as you want to, as much as you used to. Obviously the injury to Yoshidobu Yamamoto. He could be ready for the playoffs. But it's he's probably gonna be ready for the playoffs in that world. But the Dodgers, there's Justin Robleski, who's been decent. He's been pretty solid since he got first called up, and he's been up and down as well. There's obviously the Landon Knacks of the world. So the Dodgers, they'll make it work, but they need to because they have the Padres and the Diamondbacks hot on their heels. And for the Dodgers, they did just get back on the, it's not pitching, but on the offensive side, they did just get back Max Muncy and Tommy Edman. And they have provided a bit of a spark to that offense, lengthening that lineup just a bit. Max Muncy did hit a home run in his first game back, so shout out to him for that. And the next bit of news came with the Cincinnati Reds. Hunter Green, their ace, goes on the IL with right elbow soreness. The amount of elbow soreness IL stints, man. With that pitching minimum, we could be seeing the age. We could be returning to an age of pitchers instead of throwers. Not saying Hunter Green's a thrower because that's very disrespectful to Hunter Green because he's improved a lot over the years. But yeah. And then we get to the offensive side of the ball with some of these injuries to bigger names. So first off, Ketel Marte goes on the IL with a sprained ankle. Ketel Marte, you can make the argument he's top 3 in MVP voting because he's been one of the main sources of the Diamondbacks' offensive surge and rise back to prominence after the All-Star break. And it's unfortunate that he's probably, depending on how long it keeps him out, it could take him out of the MVP race because obviously we know it's probably Shohei Ohtani that's winning the MVP. But if it happened, if Ketel, there's a world where Ketel Marte would definitely finish the top 3 in MVP still. And I think depending on how long it is, he can see. But Ketel Marte, very good player, goes in the IL. Now this next injury is potentially the biggest. It's a big blow. Austin Riley of the Atlanta Braves will miss 6 to 8 weeks with a right hand fracture after getting hit on the hand with a pitch. Now, the Braves cannot catch a break when it comes to injuries on the offensive side this year. They lost Acuna for the season. Albies missed a significant amount of time. And now Austin Riley is going to potentially miss the rest of the season, the regular season, with a hand injury. Now, they signed Gio Urshela, but that's Gio Urshela. It's not going to do a crazy amount. Marcell Ozuna and they did just get Michael Harris back, so that's good for them. But Marcell Ozuna, who is going to have to do a lot. Marcell Ozuna, Jorge Soler, Matt Olson, Orlando Arcia, Darno, and Murphy, they're going to have to pick it up a bit more because Austin Riley was having a down year, but he did start to pick it up just before his injury. And they really need him to they need that because the Braves, they're for the first time in a while, they're not the big bad offensive powerhouse Braves that we know and have seen for the last however many years. So yeah, Austin Riley will be missed by them. And then the crazy injury it's not an injury, it's more so of a we've discovered something. Apparently Alex Verdugo is allergic to batting gloves. So doctors told Alex Verdugo he's allergic to chemicals in the batting gloves, which has been causing him pain for 3 years, which that is insane to think about. Alex Verdugo is a guy, he's had a pretty rough year. He's had a pretty rough year as far as with the Yankees, and you would always see him tape, he has his hands taped like a boxer, and it was always very weird to think about. But that was apparently helping with the pain. But it's just crazy to think about the guy, one of the main tools that you're using, you're allergic to, which obviously there's hyperallergenic batting gloves that have been developed and stuff like that, so he can still use them. But it's crazy to think about. Imagine going to your job and being like, oh yeah, here's one of the tools that makes your life not easier, but it helps you do your job at a better rate probably, and you just can't use it unless you get these very specific ones, which he can because he's an MLB player. But that is quite possibly one of the weirdest injury. Calling it an injury is weird, but it's the closest word that I can get to. Ailment, I guess, is an ailment that's been ailing him for 3 years. Like, and I guess we figured out this what this thing is now. So yeah, Alex Verdugo. And in two quick pieces of news, I just wanted to bring up two opposite ends of the trade deadline spectrum. We're gonna start on the bad end. As there was something that I pulled up on my phone earlier. The Orioles have optioned Trevor Rogers. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it is because he was one of their trade deadline acquisitions. He was the pitcher that they gave up Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby for, and it's weird because the Orioles need pitching, need starting pitching specifically, and it is very that's so weird to me. Like, he probably has been struggling. I haven't been able to look too close at the Orioles games recently, but he must be struggling but struggling to the point where you option your trade deadline acquisition. You kind of got to look at that as a head scratching move for the Orioles. Granted, he does have a couple more years of uh control. That's the word. Good job, Connor. Bing, bing. But yeah, it's not looking great for the Orioles on that front. And while they're trying to keep up with the Yankees for the division, they need to get it together and keep up with the pitching. But we'll go to the positive side. Can't believe I'm saying this. One of the best trade deadline performances this year is by the Kansas City Royals. So since the trade deadline, their three bigger-ish acquisitions in Lucas Erceg, Paul DeJong, and Michael Lorenzen have been very, very good. Lucas Erceg hasn't given up a run. He's pitched 10 and a third. He has 4 hits given up, no walks, 14 Ks. Good job, Lucas Erceg. They got him from the A's. Paul DeJong, old Paulie DeJong from the Chicago White Sox. He's batted 286 with a 340 on base and a 548 slugging with 3 home runs. And he's playing great defense at third base. Not second base, not shortstop, third base. And finally, Michael Lorenzen, over 22 and 2/3 innings, has an ERA of 1.99. Kansas City, for your sake and for like just the fun of baseball, I really hope you get into the playoffs because that's a fun team. And I want to see Bobby Witt in the playoffs, and also that stadium when they're good, it gets rocking. If we remember back to their World Series runs with Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas and Lorenzo Cain and all those guys, if they get in, it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, I think that's all we have for today. I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we'll be back next week. The social medias and the links will be in the description. And take care, y'all.